Merci. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à Alisa Tiganj, membre du cabinet du commissaire Hansen, commissaire à l'agriculture, qui nous fait l'honneur d'être à nos côtés aujourd'hui. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Merci beaucoup. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see how much interest livestock attracts. I think there are a couple of events on livestock going on this week. So I think it proves how important the sector is in all of its dimensions. I want to thank you personally for all the engagement and work on livestock and all the other MEPs who are so engaged also in the preparation of the own initiative report, which I think will be a very good also input for us and for our work. I don't want to tell you things that you know, so I wanted to give you a bit of a preview of what we are working on in terms of the livestock strategy, which is coming up. So, of course, the work is underway, but just to give you a couple of elements. Again, the strategy is something which came out of the Vision for Agriculture and Food. Our commissioner not only is, of course, very dedicated to agriculture, but he grew up on a farm with livestock. So you can imagine his also personal interest in the topic. So in the vision, we have actually set certain principles through which we want to look at the strategy and also look at the livestock sector in the future. The first important principle is, of course, that we want to respect the diversity of livestock and livestock systems in the EU. So this is why one-size-fits-all approach or one-size-fits-all solutions do not work for this sector. We also want very targeted and also territorial solutions and responses. We want to promote the excellence of European livestock even more. And what is different in this is that we have taken a different approach how to prepare the strategy. We have taken a very bottom-up approach. So we have launched different work strands, including the sector representatives, member states, NGOs, all the stakeholders which have a rightful place in these forums. And they have worked on different topics and prepared the ground for the strategy. So it was a very inclusive process. So, of course, the strategy will look in a very honest way on all the challenges which are facing the sector. And I think I don't have to explain, especially to the practitioners and those who live those challenges every day. Of course, the economic challenges of declining herd numbers. Wherever our commissioner goes, he has statistics with him on how much livestock numbers have fallen in certain member states. And in some, it's actually quite shocking. Of course, we have farm closures. We have low profitability of the sector. We have now high costs. We have all the geopolitical and all the other tensions, which of course have an impact on the sector immediately, not to mention our trade relations and uncertainties there. Then, of course, we have to look at the also environmental climate footprint of the sector, which is also an important element. Animal welfare, consumer, you rightly put in this in the session and also in the project, the consumer aspects. But I just want to stress that the livestock strategy will not be a document which lives in isolation from others. Livestock strategy is there to support, for example, the generational renewal strategy. How do we actually make sure that we have young people entering the sectors? It's just closely linked to the CAP recommendations, because for the next period, we will be recommending to member states how actually we think they should be directing the CAP funding towards certain instruments and measures. Of course, this is in dialogue with the member states, so this is important. Livestock will play an important role there. We have climate package coming up end of the year. We have reviews of environmental legislation. We have animal welfare coming up. So livestock strategy is there to be part and to support also the delivery of other sectors, of other initiatives. Now looking at the strategy, we are, through these different work strands, we are looking at kind of more 4 pillars. But of course, there might be in the end more, but this is where we are concentrating our work on. One of the important, first to list them, the one will be, of course, important element will be resilience. We will look very much into the resilience, into the competitiveness, into sustainability, of course, and also how does the livestock sector fit the European territorial diversity. Now, if we start, I mean, we have seen from all the developments lately how much resilience will be critical for the continuation and for the future of the sector. not to mention animal diseases that we have, the occurrence of which is honestly very worrying, and it's spreading more and more. We have climate change disruptions, which are disrupting the production. We have market volatility. We have dependence on imports of feed. We have changing consumption habits. We have geopolitics, trade relations. All of this has a role. All of this has an impact on the future of the livestock sector. So we'll be looking at the solutions, what we can deliver, that the sector continues to be resilient despite these challenges. Of course, we'll be looking what solutions we can deliver for animal diseases together with Commissioner Varhelyi in terms of contingency plans, in terms of biosecurity. We'll be looking into climate adaptation, mitigation, investments into climate-smart infrastructure. We'll be looking into EU open strategic autonomy. At the same time, we're working on the protein plan. So how do we reduce dependencies on imported protein feed? How do we develop supply chains, especially in the areas which are at risk of land abandonment? So there, livestock can play an important role. And how do we develop those supply chains, value chains, food processing, slaughterhouses? There is actually an event this afternoon on the mobile slaughterhouses, which are also an important element of resilience and preparedness. Then in terms of competitiveness, I think we are always very proud and say, well, we have the best sector in the world respecting the highest standards. This is the excellence, but of course, how do we help the sector and how do we guide in order to maintain this competitiveness and even increase it? Specifically looking at what you have mentioned as well, the reciprocity with standards applying to imports, also addressing societal expectations because the consumption habits are changing, so there are certainly implications there. How do we use innovation and technology even better to address some of the challenges? How do we address simplification? How do we address administrative burden to allow actually farmers to be competitive? And how do we, one of the important elements will be how do we distinguish this excellence that we have in the European Union vis-a-vis imports? So we are looking, you know, that we will launch the Buy European campaign, which is there also to promote our sector. So we are looking very much into this line as well. And one important element of competitiveness is also how do we incentivize new business models, how the farmers can get additional, especially livestock farmers can get additional income from renewable energy, for example, biogas, how they can valorize the byproducts to their benefit. Then the third important pillar, of course, is the sustainability, specifically how to develop practices that minimize the environmental and climate footprint there. How do we develop this tailored solution based on a different system of farming? Not every system needs the same solutions. They would be adapted to the needs. How do we use better innovation in this process as well? How do we address animal welfare and link it to the animal welfare review? And their CAP recommendations that we are preparing for the future CAP will be very important because they will guide the member states in how they spend their money for the CAP. And lastly, I don't want to take too much time, one element which is a bit new and we want to develop better is how the livestock sector fits into territorial diversity, because it's, we know that the sector has a huge role in keeping the economic activity in rural areas, areas which are at the risk of abandonment. There are certain areas where only livestock can actually be so we need to connect this and have better territorial planning. What do we need to bring to these regions? How do we, as I said before, establish the value chains? How do we establish the necessary processing facilities that are needed? How do we link it with the other development? And there, of course, the preparation of national plans for the future period will be very important to actually look at the territorial development and how the livestock is embedded in this territorial development. And we want to talk also about how do we enable local champions who can then, of course, bring added value to the regions. So this is just a bit of insights into what we are working on. We hope to deliver before summer. So, and also link it, as I said, to the protein plan that has been eagerly expected as well.